Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing the legendary Sanguinor and its words to Dante. Spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from the Warhammer 40k novel Dante by Guy Hayley. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Well, with the new Sanguinor model being revealed this week, I just had to talk about one of its most iconic moments. But before we crack on, let's just take a moment to appreciate this glow up. This is a gorgeous update, keeping it the same but just enhancing it on every level. What a centerpiece of a Blood Angel's army this new Sanguinor is going to be. I pray for the day I can paint a model like that. But anyway, back to the lore. Aside from the Primarch himself, the Sanguinor is the greatest legend within the Blood Angels chapter. Within the entirety of the Sons of Sanguinius, in truth. Its origins to them is a mystery. Its identity unknown. All they do know is that its mythical appearances coincide with times of great need, when the Sons of the Angel are giving their all in the name of the Emperor. Its connection to their legendary Primarch is clear. To some it's an echo of their Primarch spirit, to others a manifestation of his nobleness. To many, a sign the Primarch watches over them still, and in truth maybe all of the above. However, regardless, to every single son of Sanguinius, its mere appearance is enough to embolden the hearts of all who witness it. Of those who have luckily laid eyes on the legend, there have been none who have witnessed it more than Chapter Master Dante. Even before he truly became a Blood Angel, the Sanguinor appeared before him. Why the Sanguinor has appeared so often before Dante, he can't say. But it's clear Dante holds more than a touch of destiny upon his future. And out of all Dante's encounters with the Sanguinor, undoubtedly one of the most famous amongst the chapter was the time the Sanguinor spoke for the very first time. Now, this took place within the novel Dante, just prior to the fall of Cadia and the emergence of the Great Rift, and when the Blood Angels were still desperately trying to fight back and stop the first emergence of Hive Fleet Leviathan. It was within the Cryptus system, with the Blood Angels having stopped a Tyranid fleet upon the world of Asphodex, that it would take place. Though claimed as a victory, the particular fleet stopped. It as ever came as too much of a cost. The world abandoned to orbital bombardment, and the Blood Angels losing valuable men, armour, and precious Terminator suits in the encounter. Each a resource and valuable commodity the already sorely pressed Angels could not afford. And all in the knowledge it was a mere pinprick against the larger Leviathan mass. And it's one of the really rare times within the lore that even Dante feels defeat is inevitable, giving us a quite startling revelation, considering it comes from the Imperium's most legendary Chapter Master. As he looked down upon the boiling hell of Asphodex, Dante was seeing a foretaste of the end. Weariness sank deep into him, and he was glad of the support of his armour. He turned from the window and looked out at his chapter and their servants, already preparing for fresh conflict. They were so few, and growing fewer. I have failed them, he thought. This is the beginning of defeat. The losses of the Blood Angels would be great. He did not have to see the casualty reports, the broken bodies carried by grief-stricken brothers from the Storm Ravens told him all he needed to know. A dread crept along his limbs, bringing with it a weakness. There would not be enough of them left to defend Baal. The chapter would be finally destroyed. Of all the legacies of the Primarchs, the loyal bloodlines serving since the heresy, the line of Sanguinius has struggled the most. Sure, it may not feel like it, celebrated and venerated as they are, but the truth is the Blood Angels have always been fighting against their inevitable decline, the Thirst and Rage claiming ever greater numbers with every year that passes, and the chapter itself simply unable to cope with the ever-mounting casualties of war. Yet even with all of that tragedy, even when leading his chapter through so much turmoil, over the course of 1,000 years, never have I witnessed Dante so convinced of defeat, so, dare I say, accepting. And it was here, seeing, no pun intended, this flaw within himself, that Dante prayed to Sanguinius. Lord Sanguinius, he prayed, forgive me, I am old, and the toil of conflict has worn my soul thin, although my body remains strong. I will never falter, I will never retreat, I will never give in. If I cannot ensure a better future for humanity, then I will see it has a glorious end, defiant to the last. Forgive me my moments of doubt. Lend me the strength to overcome them. Can he hear me, Dante thought? Is the brightest son of the Emperor somewhere now, watching me? Sanguinius was dead 10,000 years before Dante had been born. He had prayed to him since before he had become a Space Marine. The Primarch had never answered. But Sanguinius was not a god. Sometimes it was hard to remember that. At times, the words of the Adeptus Ministorum sounded true. As if in answer to his doleful thoughts, a blaze of light shone from the centre of the deck. A wind blew in all directions. Guns were raised. Machine voices warned of intrusion, and that the deck defences were now online. Dante's hands gripped the handle of the Pedician pistol. His guard had their Angelus gauntlets pointed at the epicentre of the radiance, staring into the light unflinchingly. The light faded to reveal a golden figure, its armour almost the twin of Dante's, standing at the centre of the hangar deck. The Sanguinor boomed Chaplain Ordermail from the far side of the deck. The Sanguinor is here. If ever Dante needed confirmation of his Primarch's eternal spirit, of his presence forever watching over his sons, this is it. Praying to Sanguinius for the very strength to go on, to face the tyrannid foe to the last. And he is answered by the Sanguinor. And this isn't the Sanguinor being spotted across the carnage of battle. This isn't the Sanguinor being a rallying point of morale against the foe. The image of Sanguinius's fury annihilating the enemy. This is the Sanguinor literally materializing amid the Blood Angels before the praying Dante. Materializing out of the light, almost akin to a saint of the Emperor. But again, regardless of what Dante may perceive the Sanguinor to be, the very appearance of it here is quite literally an answer to his prayers. That in some way, somehow, Sanguinius is watching. And you get to see here just how similar the Sanguinor and Dante actually are. The activity in the hangar ceased all at once. Armour clanged on the deck plating as blood angels dropped to their knees and bowed their heads. Their servants knelt beside them like children kneeling by their fathers at prayer, hands clasped so tightly their knuckles whitened. Dante did not kneel. The Sanguinor stared at him. Broad wings of white ceramite spread either side of a face that resembled the one Dante wore. But whereas Sanguinius's face bore an expression of anger on Dante's helm, his mouth wide in a silent war cry, the rendition on the Sanguinor's was troubled, with tears of gold rolling down its cheek. It was a mask Dante had seen many times before. Deliberately, the Sanguinor strode across the deck towards Dante. His sanguinary guard moved aside. They would not have stood in the way of the Sanguinor had Dante ordered them to. The Sanguinor came to a halt before the commander. The face of Sanguinius looked into the face of Sanguinius. A sensation of wrongness took hold of Dante. He felt presumptuous, standing before this avatar of their Primarch, wearing his face. He rarely removed the mask in public nowadays. Let the men of the Imperium take heart of the sight of Sanguinius's golden face, he thought. He had come to terms with the effect the mask had on others, even if it had at first disquieted him. Warriors responded to the visage of the Primarch. Sanguinius's face and Dante's deeds had become indivisible, wielded together in the crucible of legend. So be it. But there was a reason for concealing his own face that went beyond pragmatism. As the years had coursed by, Dante had aged. He was old, and he looked it. He only reluctantly revealed his face, though he was honest enough to see his motives had as much to do with pride. Many of the younger chapter members had never seen him without his helm. To them, he was the face of Sanguinius, as the face of death was the face of the chaplaincy. Two icons of Sanguinius standing face to face. I really love that reference to Sanguinius looking at Sanguinius, because that's what they are. For all Dante feels wrong wearing his father's mask here, before the Sanguinor, he shouldn't, because he is the personification of the angel within the grim dark. It is Dante who upholds and carries the legacy of the angel, who has led his chapter for over 1,000 years, becoming the greatest chapter master who has ever led the chapter, and the greatest chapter master across the entire galaxy. You could argue who ever lived. He should truly feel shame in front of no one or no thing. Not the Sanguinor, not Sanguinius, not even the Emperor himself. For none have served as loyally and as valiantly as Dante. And yes, this is before Dante would undergo the Rubicon Primaris, becoming elevated and reinvigorated, seen as he was at the end of the Lion Son of the Forest, with now mostly black hair streaked with grey. Here Dante is still firstborn, and feeling the weight of each and every one of those years. Part of rarely removing his helm is to become the image of that legend, the unbreakable and undeniable Dante, the personification of Sanguinius's might. Dante doesn't want his men to see him as old, fearing that it may in some way dent their faith in him, their courage, that it's Sanguinius's face they respond to. Again, as Dante implies, that if his legend is cast behind Sanguinius's face, then so be it. But I think Dante does himself a disservice in that regard. Yes, of course the image and face of Sanguinius instinctively inspires his men, awes them to be confronted by it. But I don't think for one moment they don't give everything they have for Dante, Chapter Master of the Blood Angels, and not simply the image of their Primarch. Young or old, I think every single Blood Angel with his heart still beating would follow Dante into the heart of the Eye of Terror itself, with or without wearing the mask of Sanguinius. Because it's the man within that armour who has achieved so much, who has given everything and more to the chapter. It is the man who has made the legend. But so it was Dante would remove his helm, revealing that ancient aged face and his long flowing white hair. And there's some interesting details here, such as Dante only being up to the chest of the Sanguinor, so we know the Sanguinor is particularly large, giving yet another feeling and reason to feel Sanguinius's aura. And we're also told of how every time Dante has encountered the Sanguinor, he does indeed feel the presence of his Primarch, the love and purity of the angel towards his sons. And Dante can't help but feel the Sanguinor is there as his judge, perhaps for his failure against the tyrannid foe. And so he speaks to him, knowing no answer will come, for none ever does. Are these events the will of our Primarch? Is his hand at work here? There were no words. The Sanguinor was ever silent. Dante dropped his voice to a whisper. Is there hope? Can Baal be saved? Dante expected no reply. There was not a single record of the Sanguinor ever speaking. The presence of the Sanguinor seemed to swell and fill his vision with its purity and its light. Ferocious in battle, a great peace surrounded it now, and it settled on Dante like a blessing. There is yet hope, said the Sanguinor. In the Blood Angel's moment of darkness, in the moment of Dante's doubt, his feelings of failure, loss, the Sanguinor would come. It would speak for the first known time in the chapter's history, and its message would be simple. There is yet hope. And as much as these words would elate and inspire the entirety of the Blood Angels chapter, you can't help but feel it was a personal message for Dante. That you of all cannot give in to despair. That you must continue to be the light for the chapter. And that those words must surely have come from the angel himself. How is that possible? Who knows? But we have seen Dante encounter the angel in his death state upon the future devastation of Baal, where Dante would plead for death, a release, an end to his duty, and where Sanguinius would sadly tell Dante he needs to continue. Where Sanguinius calling Dante his greatest son is surely a sign of it not being Dante's imagination, for never has he possessed such arrogance within himself. And we've also seen Mephiston too encounter the angel during his crossing of the Rubicon. So it's surely a certainty that here, wherever or however Sanguinius still exists out there, within the warp, that he heard Dante's prayer, and he sent the Sanguinor to speak those words. That hope is not yet lost. For surely does that not sound like Sanguinius? Does that not sound exactly like what he would say to a son right there? The words he would find to quell the doubts, the dark within them. Be the symbol of hope he always was. For me, it's all but a certainty. And it's just one more reason to show why Sanguinius is still very much a part of the Blood Angels story. But as always everyone, what do you think? Was the Sanguinor appearing here a direct answer to Dante's prayer? Was this the Sanguinor acting alone, or a sure sign of the angel spirit continuing on? Were those the words Sanguinius would speak in that moment? And why do you feel the Sanguinor and Dante are so interlinked? Why has the Sanguinor appeared to him far more than any other son? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.